Week 1 will be here before you know it, and a lot of teams' rosters and who we think are starters and who we think are atop of the depth charts might not actually be what it all seems. And at least for me on this channel, what I have analyzed, 5 things that maybe I haven't brought to light, or things that my mind has changed as preseason and training camp has rolled on. I don't want to say vital information, but if you can be first to this and your draft is coming up in the next few days, you may be able to take advantage of this early intel before your league mates do. That's enough yapping. Let's get into elite fantasy football intel and roll the intro. First topic of conversation, we have Brian Robinson Jr., Commanders running back. And while it has been reported that he's been shopped around, being that it's still been some time and we haven't heard of any potential trade package for him or deal, and considering how good Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt has been in preseason camp for the Washington Commanders, and the fact that even beat reporters are talking about the idea of the Commanders cutting him for room to play Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt. At first, I saw that report before they were even announcing the idea of trading Brian Robinson Jr., and I thought it was crazy, but now the pieces and starting to align for Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt to take over the backfield and make Brian Robinson Jr. a thing of the past. Bottom line here, Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt is an ascending asset in fantasy football drafts. When to even draft him, no one really has the answer to that. It's really coming down to whether your league mates are in or out on him, or do they know about him, and you're just going to have to seize and execute the opportunity. If you want him, you gotta go get him. Next, we have the Kansas City Chiefs wide receivers. I made a video about Xavier Worthy possibly being cleared for takeoff, and while that may not be the case with Rashe Rice starting the season and playing 4 games, we know that Rashe Rice is still going to be suspended for a nice chunk of the season. We're probably expecting 6 games? If he played weeks 1 to 4, a 6-game suspension leaves him open to playing after week 11 because week 10 is their bye week. So from weeks 12 and on, you still have a potential league-winning asset in Rashe Rice. So for where he's going at his ADP, he's worth a shot, but just understand it's strictly upside. He's probably going to sit on your bench for a good chunk of the season, but it could all be worth it if you sneak into the playoffs. I'm not fading Xavier Worthy entirely. I thought the idea of Xavier Worthy benefiting from a 4 to 6 game window in the beginning of the season without Rashe Rice would help him grow and carve out a larger target share in this offense. But if Rashe Rice is going to play the first 4 games, the Chiefs are going to play and assume like they have him for the whole season. I don't see where, if Rashe Rice is healthy, Xavier Worthy is a better wide receiver in fantasy. So for that, I am back on board with drafting Rashe Rice, but just know this pick will either make or break your fantasy football season. Now here comes Tyler Warren, somebody I haven't made a video about, and all the recent camp reports have even made me question, do I even make a video about Brock Bowers potentially being the best pick in fantasy football when you could get Tyler Warren in rounds 7 through 9? The upside here is tremendous. You get Daniel Jones, a albeit not all-world talented quarterback, but very capable quarterback, and a quarterback that looks towards the middle of the field, unlike Anthony Richardson, who's looking to uncork the ball 40-50 yards through the air. I think Daniel Jones and the ability to have more short receptions benefits Tyler Warren versus having Anthony Richardson, who's just going to want to sling it. And add to the fact how beat reporters are talking about how versatile of a weapon he is in preseason camp, I'm kind of sold on Tyler Warren right now. It's really a cliche. The last 2 seasons before this, there was a rookie tight end that finished as the tight end 1 overall, and now we have a tight end prospect worthy of finishing of a tight end 1 finish. Maybe not in the offense to do it or the situation, but is definitely talented to do so. Maybe Anthony Richardson wins the job back at some point. That could potentially lower Tyler Warren's ceiling in fantasy. Yeah, this is a bad offense. They're going to be throwing the ball down late in games because they're not competitive, and Tyler Warren's going to benefit from that. Moving on, let's talk about one of probably the 5 least desired backfields to want to own in fantasy football this year. The Cleveland Browns backfield, Quinshon Judkins and Dylan Sampson, is quite an interesting one. Right now, it's hard to get a hold of who's really going to win this starting job, but with the news of Quinshon Judkins not facing any legal charges and expecting to be back with the team soon, the NFL still could suspend him. We've seen this before in Ezekiel Elliott in the past, where he was not found guilty of anything in a court but was still suspended for 6 games. I I don't know of any hearing date for a Quinshon Judkins ruling like a Rashe Rice one in the NFL. And I know that we're only a couple weeks away from the season. If there's going to be no word in the next 5 to 7 days about a Quinshon Judkins suspension, I'm going to draft him like he's the starting running back here because they used a higher draft pick on him than Dylan Sampson. The idea of me wanting to draft and tell you guys to draft Dylan Sampson was because the opportunity of Quinshon Judkins being away from the team benefiting other guys in this room that aren't Jerome Ford. But now Quinshon Judkins being added back into this mix creates a level of complexity where we don't really know exactly who out of this group of three is going to take the most carries or opportunities, but I'm going to bet on the most talented one in that room. It's not like drafting any of these Cleveland Brown running backs is going to kill your fantasy football season where you're drafting them at their ADP. So I would take a shot on Quinshon Judkins. And lastly, the final topic of conversation. Maybe I undervalued or underrated this player on my wide receiver tier list. Are we about to see a Ricky Pearsall breakout season this year? What makes this potential breakout prediction tricky is that what Ricky Pearsall has excelled at, or at least excelled at in preseason on film, is getting open in the middle of the field and just operating in open space. But that's kind of what George Kittle does for this offense already. But I'm watching Ricky Pearsall operate with great footwork, great route running, and I'm saying to myself, this guy looks like a year 2 Cooper Kupp. I'm not talking about a Triple Crown winner here, but a football player that knows how to get open, knows how to use the middle of the field to create space. We all debated for about a year now, or over a year, whether or not he was actually worth a first round pick for the San Francisco 49ers. But now in 2025, with no Brandon Ayuk and likely going to be the top target getter after George Kittle, Ricky Pearsall has a chance to show us that he is worth a first round pick. And I think he's going to explode in year 2. We know last year had tons of talented wide receivers. Brian Thomas Jr. and Malik Neighbors absolutely broke out. Sure, there's room for them to make a year 2 explosion, but I'm looking at guys like Rome Odunze, looking at Marvin Harrison Jr., looking at Ricky Pearsall. I'm looking at these other year 2 wide receivers that didn't necessarily explode last year to give me that year 2 surge that exceeds ADP, gives me a chance to win a fantasy football championship. But that's my 5 key things that we need to take away and understand before we draft in our fantasy football leagues. If you agree with any of these, if you disagree, let me know down in the comments. We could have a discussion about it. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. My name is Turtle. This is Outlier Fantasy, and I will see you in the next video. Wow, you stuck to the end of this video? Thank you so much. If you're new here, make sure you check out one of these videos on the screen right now. And don't forget, before you leave, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any fantasy football videos on this channel. That's all I got for you guys. I'll see you in the next one.